And one more time, David Diskin.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Seth. Oh, man. We are so close to wrapping up the day, but we do have some, I think, great things to share with you before we do that, and still some amazing speakers, so stick with us. How many of you had a chance to check out that Freethinker gallery that's right over there in the lawn? Did anybody take a look through it? I want to thank Minga for giving us the funds to reprint those posters, but what you may not know is that that was a tradition started in Freethought Day's second year. And every year, we induct more and more people into that gallery. In fact, we've got so many people now, we can't even fit them despite doubling the size of the framework. So every time you come out here, we're just going to randomly pick any of the 50 amazing people and put them up there. But pretty soon, you'll be able to visit our website, and you'll see all the bios of every single one that we've ever inducted. This year, we have 3 new ones to add, and I'm so happy that our committee is here to share them with you and read a little bit about the 3 new folks. Ryan is going to start the first, introducing Philip Randolph.
Okay, our first inductee is labor union activist and civil rights leader, Philip Randolph. Asa Philip Randolph grew up in the Jim Crow South in a minister's household, yet he became one of the 20th century's most influential champions of social justice, not through religious creed, but guided by secular humanist convictions. He believed deeply in the power of ordinary people to achieve their own liberation, famously declaring, "Salvation for a race, nation, or class must come from within. Freedom is never guaranteed. It is won. Justice is never given. It is exacted." The credo defined Randolph's approach. Progress would not come from divine intervention, but through organized human action. Randolph was a driving force behind 2 of America's most transformative movements, organized labor and civil rights. As a founder of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters in 1925, he built the first successful Black-led labor union in U.S. history, defying both corporate resistance and racial barriers. He later leveraged his influence to pressure presidents and shape federal policy, advocating for equal opportunity through reason, protest, and secular principles. In 1941, Randolph called for a mass march on Washington to protest discrimination in defense industries. The march was ultimately canceled after President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802, banning such practices. Randolph's strategy demonstrated his enduring belief in the collective, grassroots power, not divine deliverance. His advocacy for strategic nonviolence and economic justice continued through World War II and into the post-war years. He helped push President Harry Truman to desegregate the armed forces in 1948 and co-founded the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights in 1950. Most famously, he served as a key architect of the 1963 March on Washington, where he opened the event by declaring it the advance guard of a massive moral revolution for jobs and freedom. While Randolph rarely discussed his personal religious views publicly, he increasingly aligned with secular and humanist thinking. In 1970, he was named Humanist of the Year by the American Humanist Association, and in 1973, he signed the Humanist Manifesto II, a document that rejected the supernatural and emphasized human agency and ethical responsibility. Though his endorsement did not mean full agreement with every phrase, it reflected the broader commitment to reason, dignity, and progress without reliance on religious dogma. As one passage of the manifesto states, "Our aim is to appeal to reason. Prayer is not one of our remedies. It depends on what one is praying for. We consider prayer nothing more than a fervent wish. Consequently, the merit and worth of a prayer depends upon what the fervent wish is." The sentiment resonates with another core tenet of the document. No deity will save us. We must save ourselves. Randolph's legacy across labor, civil rights, and American public life was grounded in a secular moral philosophy that honored a human potential, collective action, and the courage to confront injustice without appeals to divine intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Our next one is Ken. There you are. Ken is going to read us a little bit about Jerry Sloan. Ken?
Our second Just take it out. I broke it. Our second inductee is a local activist and co-founder of California Freethought Day, Jerry Sloan.
Sorry. There it goes.
Jerry Sloan, co-founder of the Sacramento LGBT Community Center and lifelong champion of LGBTQ+ and secular rights, is best known to many for his landmark 1984 lawsuit against televangelist Jerry Falwell. Sloan's life was defined not by a single headline, but by decades of tireless, behind-the-scenes activism that shaped social justice in Sacramento and beyond. Originally from Kansas City, Missouri, Sloan came out in 1960, a brave stance during an era when living authentically as a gay person could mean losing your job, your safety, or your life. He refused to hide. He joined marches, defied bigotry, and counseled those rejected by their churches or families. His Baptist upbringing and study at Bible college later gave him uncommon insight into the language of the religious right, a skill he used masterfully to expose hypocrisy and defend LGBTQ+ communities. In Sacramento, Sloan became a beacon of leadership, helped to found the Lambda Community Center in the 1980s, the precursor to today's Sacramento LGBT Community Center. His goal was to create a safe, supportive place for LGBTQ+ people to find connections and resources. We need a space that said you belong. That was always the point. Sloan made national headlines in 1984 when he confronted Reverend Jerry Falwell on live TV broadcast. Falwell had denied slandering the gay-affirming Metropolitan Community Church, despite having called it a vile and satanic system. When Falwell declared, "I'll give you $5,000 if you can produce that tape," Sloan did. Falwell then refused to pay. So Sloan sued and won. The court enforced the promise, affirming the truth on public record. "I did it for the principle of the thing. Falwell's statements are dangerous to the gay and lesbian community. He has said disastrous things about various and sundry people, and he always tried to squirm out of it. He indicated that I was a liar and that I was not a reliable person. So the lawsuit was a matter of personal integrity." Rather than pocket the money, Sloan donated much of it to help open the community center. That was who he was, someone who transformed private victories into public good. Friends and colleagues often described him as generous, persistent, and disarmingly cheerful. Even later in life, navigating events in an electric wheelchair and flying his rainbow flag, remained fully engaged, always smiling, always active. Sloan was also a vocal secular activist, believing firmly in the separation of church and state. He served as president of Atheists and Other Freethinkers and co-founded the Sacramento Freethought Day, now California Freethought Day. In 2019, that same event honored him with long overdue recognition. Taking the stage, he used his brief remarks not to thank the crowd, but to urge support for Freedom of Religion Day. "We must never let religious liberty be redefined as the right to discriminate. Until his passing, Sloan continued advocating with humanity and purpose. David 𝘔𝘦𝘮𝘮, CEO of Sacramento LGBT Community Center, remembered him as generous, influential, and a tenacious activist who embodied the spirit of the movement and will be missed. Jerry Sloan didn't seek applause, but in life and legacy, he earned it.
Thank you, Ken, and of course, Jerry. And now for our third and final inductee, I'm starting on your thing already, I'm sorry about that, is Emily to read us about Catherine Farringer.
I'm behind you. Yeah. Now I'm realizing I should have worn my reading glasses. Ooh. I'm just going to hold that. Okay. Catherine Farringer, a full-time activist and author, lived in San Antonio, Texas, where she planned to raise her children as an Episcopalian. As a freethinker, she began to question religion after reading a book of Bible stories, realizing that the God she knew was not fit for her children. Quoted as saying, "I said to my husband, I can't teach this stuff to my kids. I think I'm nicer than God." Catherine soon became an atheist, actively advocating for the separation of church and state. Her passion for truth drove her not only to activism, but also to community leadership. In 1987, Catherine opened a chapter of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, their table's over there, in San Antonio, Texas, calling it the Freethought Forum. This group allowed fellow freethinkers from the San Antonio area to meet and discuss science, politics, and democracy. Catherine said, "How religion got such a hammerlock on society is a mystery, for it would seem logical that scientific advancement would stretch minds, not shrink them." Catherine supported non-religious and freethinker communities throughout her life, organizing protests against religious influences in our government, and promoting rallies like the Rally for Reason in 1994. In an attempt to reach more people, Catherine produced and hosted a weekly public access television program, which she also called the Freethought Forum. She used it as a platform to teach about atheism and the unconstitutional religious influence that's affecting our nation. She said, "We would be 1,500 years ahead if it hadn't been for the church dragging science back by its coattails and burning our best minds at the stake." Catherine was a driving force in the atheist community, protesting prayer breakfasts, religious symbols on public property, organized school prayer for children, prison ministries, courtroom oaths, and so much more. She believed that freethinkers should nurture the next generation and was unfairly labeled as a militant atheist for her efforts. She said, "At some point in history, the adjective militant was attached to the noun atheist, very much as was the adjective damn attached to the noun Yankee during the Civil War. Propaganda dished out by our government reached fever pitch in the 1950s. Russians were the enemy. The enemy was communistic. Communists were atheists. Ergo, every American atheist was bound to be a communist and therefore the enemy. The Russians were I can't talk. The Russians were I wrote it, guys. I'm telling you. Okay. I'm getting comments from the audience. Was it this word? Is it this one? The Russians were militant, so atheists were also the same. Of course, to speak of God in this country is to win social acceptance. To speak of humanist values and concerns is highly suspect. To plant religious symbols on public properties is considered an act of patriotism, providing those symbols are Christian ones. To object to those symbols because they violate the First Amendment is considered an act of treason. After many years serving locally, Catherine entered the national stage, serving as the secretary of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. She also used her unique voice and wit to write for Freethought Today, a national publication. Her letters to the editor op-eds, and letters to government officials helped to bring a much-needed voice to the freethinker community. Catherine died in 2008, continuing her work for Freethought and Reason by donating her body to science. And now she, Jerry, and Philip will forever be a part of our Freethinker Gallery. Thank you. I don't know how to keep that up.
Thank you, Emily, and to everyone else who read. And in addition to recognizing folks from years past, another thing that we also do is recognize those we've very recently lost within the calendar year. To read for our first, I'd like to welcome Seth back up to the audience to read, sorry, I just couldn't stop messing with that. To read about somebody who's actually very dear to both of us and was once a speaker here at California Freethought Day, who we lost recently. Seth, could you tell us about Dr. Abby Hafer?
Always have to adjust this mic a little bit. Sorry about that.
Oh, you broke it. Good. It wasn't me.
Is it the bass?
It's the weight.
You're very kind. Thank you. Dr. Abby Hafer appeared on my radar several years ago. It's more than 8, I think, years ago. I had stumbled upon her book. It was came out in 2015. It was called The Not So Intelligent Designer: Why Evolution Explains the Human Body and Intelligent Design Does Not. And I reached out to her after a few years because the book was so impressive. And I said, you don't have an audio book. You're a great communicator, but I would be honored to narrate the audiobook of this because it's just terrific, and we collaborated. Abby had a doctorate in zoology from Oxford. She taught human anatomy at Curry College. On every level, the macro and the personal level, she became a mentor for me. You know, she helped this former evolution denier and denialist. Well, I just made up a word. That the language evolved, you see, denial and denier. So there was a hybrid, and then a new word survived and passed on its genes. She helped me to understand what evolution was and what it wasn't. Those of us who came out of the church, wow, you know, Viagra's cheaper. So anyway. We used to make fun of evolution when I was in Christian school, but we didn't know what it was. And thanks to people like Abby, rather than be threatened by my relationship to the living world, I found myself feeling really lucky and thankful. You know, she poked a lot of holes in the whole intelligent design claims by apologists, and she did so the way she did everything else, with good data and good humor, goodwill. That's my kind of teacher. She had long battled cancer, Abby had. Her premature death, I think, provides another example of cosmic injustice. Wonderful people, worthy human beings get taken from us too soon. And there may be a few apologists out there who are kind of huffing that, well, you know, she insulted the designer. That's the kind of thing that happens. But they would be missing the point that Abby had been trying to make for decades. Runaway genetic mutations that cause cancer are bad design. And any God that would weaponize cancer to punish someone would be worthy of our disdain. Now, I doubt Abby would have led with that point, but educators often use their stories to inform and inspire others. Her story has informed and inspired me, many of the people on this stage, and many of you as well. I'm so grateful that our paths crossed. I am so thankful for Dr. Abby Hafer, her education, her humanism. I'm saddened we've lost this advocate, this precious human being. Yet through her lectures, her interviews, books, and in the memories and the stories about her that we share with each other, she is still with us today. She has a special place here and here. And in those lovely and very critical ways, Dr. Abby Hafer lives on. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seth, and of course to Dr. Hafer. Next, I'd like to have Nick up here to talk to us about Derek Humphrey.
Today, we'd also like to remember Derek Humphrey, born in England in 1930. Derek devoted his life to one of humanity's hardest conversations, the right to die with dignity. Through his books like Jean's Way and Final Exit, and as founder of the nonprofits Hemlock Society and the Final Exit Network, he gave courage to those facing suffering and uncertainty. Though his message often stirred controversy, it also paved the way for legislative change. His Hemlock Society evolved into Compassion and Choices, an organization that strongly advocated for California's End-of-Life Option Act, passed in 2016. Derek's legacy is one of courage, empathy, and truth, a reminder that love sometimes means letting go. He passed away peacefully earlier this year.
Thank you, Nick. And our final in memoriam will be read by Becky about Jane Goodall.
Dr. Jane Goodall, who died on October 1st from natural causes at the age of 91, was a beloved primatologist and conservationist whose groundbreaking research on chimpanzees documented the primates' distinct personalities and use of tools, traits that had previously only been associated with humans. Her vocal advocacy and numerous appearances on television, documentaries, and speaking tours transformed how the world perceived not only humans' closest living biological relatives, but also the emotional complexity of all animals. She built conservation programs all around the world and was responsible for putting 3.4 million acres of habitat under conservation action plans. Ultimately, her biggest legacy may be that she inspired generations of Homo sapiens to believe that even our non-human animal companions and the environment we share with them deserve their measure of liberty and justice.
Thank you, Becky. So I want to thank again Seth and Nick and Becky and the others who spoke before with our new inductees, and of course to acknowledge again those who we've recently lost.